Chapter 1. The Unwanted Princess Awakens. Once upon a time, in an empire forged from conquest, magic, and the cold weight of immortal names, a desperate voice echoed through the grandest yet most merciless throne room in the world. What do I have to do for you to love me? A girl of 18 knelt on marble, so polished it mirrored her tear-streaked face like a cruel reflection. Her golden hair spilled across the floor like spilled sunlight, and her sapphire eyes that should have sparkled with youth, were drowning in despair. She clutched the hem of an imperial robe with trembling fingers, as though if she held on tightly enough, the man wearing it might finally see her. Emperor Claude de Algrobelia stood above her, tall and unyielding, his golden eyes colder than winter steel. He did not flinch at her tears. He did not soften at her trembling voice. He regarded the child at his feet the way one might regard a stain on fine velvet. "Should I become like Jeanette?" Athanasia whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. "If I smile the way she does, laugh the way she does, shine the way she does, will you finally look at me with warmth? Will you call my name gently? Will you hold me in your arms instead of pushing me away?" Jeanette Margarita, the lovely, legitimate half-sister, the one who bloomed effortlessly in the rare sunlight of Claude's affection while Athanasia withered in perpetual shadow. Jeanette, who had stolen not only the scraps of honor Athanasia once clung to, but the very love she had begged for her entire life. "I've been here longer," Athanasia pleaded, small hands tightening on silk. "I was yours first." Claude's lips curled, not into a smile but into something far crueler. Foolish creature. With a single, effortless motion, he shook her off. Her fingers slipped away like water through open hands. "I have never considered you my daughter." The words struck deeper than any sword ever could. Athanasia crumpled forward, forehead touching cold stone, despair flooding her brilliant blue eyes until they looked like twin drowning seas. And in the pages of a cheaply written web novel titled The Lovely Princess, that was where her story ended. Framed for poisoning her perfect half-sister, condemned without trial, and beheaded at 18 while the Empire cheered for the lovely princess who had won every heart. But stories, like lives, can shatter and reform in the strangest ways. Far across worlds, across death itself, a young woman named Li Jihae closed her eyes one freezing night. She had never known parents, only stories, found bundled in rags at an orphanage gate, named after a random contact in the manager's phone because no one bothered to choose better. Jihae Li. Ordinary, forgettable. Orphanage life taught her early that everything worth having had to be fought for. Food, space, kindness. At 18, she walked out those gates into a city that didn't care. Convenience store graveyard shifts, car wash buckets in summer heat, restaurant sinks that never stopped running. A tiny apartment that rattled with every passing train and froze solid every winter. That winter had been especially merciless. Hypothermia clawed at her bones. Sleep became impossible. She begged her boss for sleeping pills, anything to stop the shaking. She swallowed them one night when the cold felt like it would never leave, when tomorrow felt like too much to ask for. She expected darkness. Instead, she woke to golden sunlight filtering through lace curtains, and the unmistakable weight of a very small, very chubby body. A rattle clattered to the marble floor. "Huh?" Her own voice, high, babyish, impossible, echoed back at her. She was no longer Jihae, she was Athanasia. Athanasia de Algrobelia, the doomed princess she had once skimmed about in a borrowed web novel during a late-night shift. The irony was almost laughable. Almost. She dropped the rattle again, on purpose, testing. A grumpy maid jolted awake, cursing under her breath. "Ugh, what the heck? Why does she keep dropping it?" She snatched the toy up, unwashed, and shoved it back without a second glance. "Please be quiet and play with this, miss." Athanasia stared at the dirty rattle in horror. Mentally 20-something, she had no intention of chewing on floor germs. Another drop, another annoyed sigh. "What's wrong now? I'm busy sewing. Here, I'll pick it up for you." "Don Lake," she forced out, the baby syllables her only protest. The maid rolled her eyes, deposited her back in the crib, and left muttering. Alone, Athanasia lifted one impossibly small hand and stared at it. Then at the chandelier dripping with what looked like real diamonds. At gold-trimmed furniture. At walls that shimmered with quiet wealth. From freezing apartment to princess in a trashy novel. The Ruby Palace. The emperor's abandoned harem. Where concubines once danced, until Claude painted every corridor red. Her mother, Diana, a commoner dancer, had caught Claude's eye for one night. Then he forgot her. She bore his child alone, named her Athanasia, immortal, and died before the baby knew her warmth. Now the palace was half forgotten, funds insufficient, maids resentful, toys cheap. But the gold was real, everywhere. If I survive long enough, I'm taking it all and running. Most maids treated her like furniture. They whispered about kitchen ghosts, about how they'd been banished here as punishment. But not Lily. Our pretty little princess, Athanasia. Lily rocked the cradle, humming lullabies that felt like sunlight. Athanasia stared up, wide-eyed, drooling a little. Lily was beautiful, the kind of face that made even an adult soul forget to breathe. When Lily's smile faltered, pity flickering because she knew what fate waited, Athanasia kicked her legs, waved her arms. "Don't look at me like I'm already dead." Lily laughed softly, brushed golden curls from her forehead. "Oh, my princess, it's time for sleep." Athanasia whined, rebelling against early bedtime. But Lily tucked the blanket higher. "You need to sleep well to grow up nice and tall." When other maids shouted for her, Lily stroked her cheek once more. "Don't be afraid," and slipped out. Alone, Athanasia gazed at the ceiling. Crystal prisms danced, gold gleamed. If I live long enough for teeth, I'm biting every candelabra. She knew the plot, she knew the execution waiting at 18, but she also knew something the original Athanasia never had, a past life full of hunger, cold, and stubborn survival, a mind that refused to beg, a heart that had already learned the hardest truth. Love was never guaranteed, but life could be fought for. So she kicked her legs harder. She stared at the gold and planned, and somewhere deep inside, beneath fear, she began to dream. Not of a father's arms, but of freedom, one determined kick at a time. Chapter 2, Whispers of Gold and Ghosts. The Ruby Palace felt more like a beautiful tomb than a home. Athanasia learned the truth in hushed maid whispers. This place had once been the emperor's glittering harem. Concubines laughed and danced here once. Then one day, Claude slaughtered them all. No reason anyone could name. Only blood-soaked silk and silence afterward. Her mother, Diana, a dancer of breathtaking grace, had been invited to perform at a royal banquet. She caught Claude's eye for one fleeting night. Then he forgot her. She carried his child in secret, gave birth in these haunted halls, named her Athanasia, immortal, and slipped away before the baby ever knew her face. Now only Athanasia remained. The emperor's sole bloodline, abandoned, raised by resentful maids in a palace still stained with old screams. Every night after hearing those stories, nightmares came. Golden eyes bursting through the door, a sword raised, her small body crumpling. She feared Claude more than the ghosts. Ung-Ong. Her name, Athanasia, meant forever. Lily had whispered it like a secret blessing the night before. Diana had chosen it, perhaps hoping the child would outlast the storm. But in The Lovely Princess, that name belonged to a girl executed at 18 by her own father. So Athanasia spent mornings staring fearfully at the door. When it finally opened one day, her heart nearly stopped, only for maids to saunter in, grumbling, "Sheesh, still not sleeping? Do we have to stay? She can't even move." "Lillian will throw a fit if we leave early. So annoying." They spoke as though she were furniture. Athanasia seethed inwardly. "You're stuck here too, outcast together." But she kept quiet. Her plan was simple. Stay invisible, hoard gold, escape when old enough. No tears, no tantrums, no attention from the monster on the throne. "Even if the emperor doesn't care, she lives like a princess," one muttered enviously. They weren't wrong. 3 meals, mostly formula, soft beds, walls dripping with real gold and jewels. Not bad for an orphan reborn. "Once I can walk," she vowed, kicking her chubby legs with determination, "I'll stuff my pockets and vanish." Peace settled uneasily over the Ruby Palace. The emperor stayed away. Maids relaxed. Though ghost stories persisted, Athanasia grew stronger, crawling across plush carpets, eyes gleaming at every sparkle. "Hey, hey," Lily, sweet sunlit Lily, presented a shining gold ball one afternoon. Athanasia squealed, batting it with glee, drooling in pure joy. Lily laughed, pressed a kiss to her cheek. "You like shiny things that much, my princess?" More gifts followed, a gold rattle, a jeweled mobile. Lily assumed childish fascination. Athanasia knew better. This is escape money. Days passed in golden haze. Decorations mysteriously vanished, perhaps stored for safety. Athanasia glared at empty spots. Give it back. Then came the inevitable. Wet bottom, loud ooh-ah, cry for diaper change. Later, cradled in Lily's lap, a picture book opened before them. Not mere fairy tales, but history laced with wonder. The magician of the tower is the strongest of all magicians, Lily read softly. Athanasia's eyes widened. Magic, real magic in this world? She pointed eagerly at an illustration. A dark tower wreathed in thorny black vines, ominous and magnificent. Ooh-wah? They say if the magician of the tower wishes it, he could erase an entire empire, Lily continued. That's why they freeze their own hearts, to wield such power without attachment. Athanasia listened, heart pounding. I want to see magic. I want to see him. Lily turned pages. Then something else caught Athanasia's eye, a different image, striking and strange amid the history. What is? Lily's smile turned wistful. That is your mother, Diana. The word landed like a dropped jewel, heavy, sparkling, real. Athanasia froze. Lily traced the illustration gently. Your mother was so graceful, so full of life. They say even the coldest hearts warmed when she danced. The emperor noticed her. For one night. Athanasia stared, chest tight. He noticed her and then forgot her and left me here. Lily sighed softly, but she was a commoner. She could never be more than a fleeting fancy. She carried you in secret and passed away soon after you were born. The room grew quieter. Even the mobile seemed to slow. Athanasia reached up, patting Lily's cheek with a determined little hand. Don't be sad. I'm here now. Lily caught the tiny fingers, kissed them. You have her eyes, that same brilliant blue, and her hair, pure gold. Whenever I look at you, I see her smiling back. Something warm bloomed in Athanasia's chest. Not just survival anymore, not just gold and escape. My mother, she had never had one before. Now she had a face, a name, a dance. Maybe that's why he went mad. Maybe losing her broke him. She glanced at the door, fear layered now, not just for herself. Lily closed the book softly. Someday, when you're older, I'll tell you the happy stories. How she laughed, how she danced barefoot in the gardens, how she sang to you before you were born. Athanasia gurgled, reaching for the book again. More. Please, but Lily only rocked her gently. For now, rest, my princess. Grow strong. Your mother would want that. As evening fell, painting the room rose gold, Athanasia lay in her crib, staring at dancing prisms. Diana, I'm going to live, she vowed silently. Not just survive. Live so brightly that even if he comes, if the novel tries to kill me, I'll have something worth fighting for. Magic, gold, a mother's memory, and maybe a way to break fate itself. One heartbeat, one memory, one determined breath at a time. Chapter 3, The Name That Should Not Be Shared in the Sun-Dappled Nursery of the Ruby Palace, a curious little princess discovered something far more dangerous than gold or ghosts. Athanasia sat nestled in Lily's warm lap, the picture book spread open like a treasure map across her tiny knees. The pages were thick with color, knights in silver armor, dragons breathing emerald fire, towering spires that scraped the sky, but one illustration held her captive. A black tower wrapped in twisting thorns, so dark it seemed to drink the light around it. What is? She demanded again, jabbing her chubby finger at the ominous structure. Her voice was still baby-soft, but the excitement behind it was anything but childish. Lily smiled, tracing the edge of the drawing with a gentle fingertip. That, my princess, is the Black Tower, the home of the magician of the tower, the most powerful mage in the entire continent. Athanasia's blue eyes grew impossibly wide. Most powerful? They say his magic could swallow armies, shatter mountains, or turn the sun itself into ash if he wished. Lily's voice dropped to a storyteller's hush. But such power comes at a terrible price. To hold it, the magician must freeze his own heart. No love, no warmth, no weakness, only cold, endless control. Athanasia stared at the thorny tower, imagining ice-blue eyes staring back from its highest window. A shiver danced down her spine, not entirely from fear. I want to see it, she thought fiercely. I want to see real magic, not just pictures, real sparks, real power. She had died once already, from cold, from exhaustion, from a handful of sleeping pills in a freezing apartment. If this world had magic, maybe it had second chances too. Maybe it had ways to become strong enough that even an emperor couldn't touch her. Lily turned the page. Another image, a silver-haired man in flowing black robes, face half hidden by shadow, one hand raised as though commanding the very air to kneel. Lightning cracked around his fingers like captured stars. The current magician is called Lucas, Lily continued. They say he's young, barely more than a boy, yet already more terrifying than any who came before. No one has seen his true face in years. Some whisper he's immortal. Others say he's simply bored. Athanasia pointed again, this time at the lightning. "Wanna see?" she babbled, trying to make the words clear. "Wanna see magic?" Lily laughed softly, brushing a strand of golden hair from Athanasia's forehead. "One day, perhaps, when you're bigger and braver, but magic is dangerous, my princess. Beautiful, but dangerous." "So am I going to be," Athanasia decided silently. "Dangerous enough that no one dares hurt me again." The afternoon slipped away in golden light and whispered stories. Lily read on, tales of ancient spells, forbidden grimoires, enchanted forests where time itself could be stolen. Athanasia listened with every fiber of her small being, memorizing, dreaming, planning. By evening, when Lily finally tucked her into the crib and dimmed the lamps, Athanasia didn't cry for once. Instead, she lay on her back, staring up at the jeweled mobile spinning slowly overhead. Gold stars winked down at her. "Magic exists here, and I'm going to find it, before the Emperor remembers I exist, before the novel's ending comes for me at 18. She curled her tiny fist around the edge of her blanket. "Lucas," she thought, the name tasting like possibility on her baby tongue. "One day, I'm going to knock on your tower door." Outside, the Ruby Palace slept under a blanket of stars. Maids whispered ghost stories in the kitchens. Somewhere far away, in a cold palace of white marble and sharper ambition, Emperor Claude sat upon his throne, golden eyes distant and unreadable. And in a crib lined with silk and forgotten dreams, a reincarnated soul smiled into the darkness. Not sweetly, not innocently, but like someone who had just found the first real piece of a map that might lead her out of hell. One shimmering page at a time. Chapter 4, Tears and Chocolate Schemes. The nursery was quiet except for one sound, a heartbroken sob. Athanasia buried her face in the pillow, fury and fear twisting together until tears spilled over. She had tried so hard to pretend it was coincidence. Different world, different life, different Athanasia. But the names, the palace, the massacre, Lily, Diana, Claude, everything matched. Uwan? The dam broke. Real tears, hot, angry, terrified, poured down chubby cheeks. The door flew open. "Princess?" Lily rushed in, brown hair flying, blue eyes wide with worry. "Why is our princess crying?" Athanasia threw herself into familiar arms and wailed louder. Lily rocked her gently, patting her back. "Are you hungry? Does something hurt?" No answer, just more sobs. Lillian York. In the novel, the only person who had believed Athanasia's innocence until the bitter end. The only one who stood beside her at the execution and died for it. Second daughter of a powerful count family. She could have lived in luxury. Instead, she volunteered for the Ruby Palace because of Diana. Diana, with moonlight hair and mysterious ruby eyes, had been a free spirit who dazzled the court with her solo dance. Lily had admired her fiercely, envied her wings, her courage. Then Diana became Claude's one-night fancy, locked away, forgotten. Lily never forgave him for that. "Wan!" Athanasia cried harder, fists clutching Lily's apron. "Claude, you piece of scum," Lily grew flustered. "Oh my, princess, what's wrong?" The tears wouldn't stop. The unfairness crashed over her in waves. Why me? Why Athanasia? Why not Jeanette, the lucky one? Lily checked her diaper. "Is it time to change?" "No, I didn't pee." "So it's not food or the diaper?" Athanasia twisted away, humiliated and heartbroken all at once. "She's whining a lot these days," Lily murmured, half to herself, "because I know I'm going to die if nothing changes." She couldn't speak the truth, couldn't warn anyone, couldn't run yet. So she cried until exhaustion claimed her, safe in Lily's arms. The only solution was escape. Time, hurry up. Spring arrived bright and blooming. The Ruby Palace gardens had gone wild, flowers spilling over cracked paths, vines climbing marble like they owned it. Athanasia, now 5, toddling confidently, pat-patted down the hallway between blooms. She spotted Hannah, one of the kinder maids, arms full of supply lists after the monthly delivery of vegetables, meats, and fish. Athanasia grabbed the hem of Hannah's skirt. Honey, Hannah looked down. Athanasia deployed the ultimate weapon, enormous, sparkling puppy eyes. Can Audie please have some chocolate? Hannah melted instantly. Cute princess, would you like some chocolate? Yeah, I like chocolate. Gimme a lot, please. Hannah fished in her apron, grinning. You like chocolate that much? Yeah, I like it as much. Athanasia stretched her arms in a giant circle over her head. Hannah laughed. And Hannah too? I like Hannah too. Oh my. Give me the chocolate already. Hey, see? The moment shattered. Says tall, beautiful, perpetually icy, strode down the hall. Didn't you hear what Miss Lillian said? No snacks whenever we feel like it. But it's just one, Hannah protested. It's a problem because everyone thinks that way. Athanasia refused defeat. She toddled over, grabbed Sess's skirt, and looked up with weaponized innocence. Honey, Audie wants chocolate. Sess's expression flickered, ice cracking. You can't, princess. But Athanasia leaned in, eyes shining. C's knelt slowly, eye level now. It's a secret from Miss Lillian, okay? A small fistful of chocolate drops landed in Athanasia's palm. Thank you, Annie. She planted a loud kiss on Sess's cheek. Sess flushed, composure slipping. Hannah gasped. That's unfair. You did that on purpose, right? Sess sniffed. What are you talking about? Do you think I have secret motives? Then why give it to her? The princess's kiss was mine. They bickered behind her. Athanasia bolted. Chocolate clutched tight before Lily could appear. A dine and dash victory. Time had flown. She was 5 now. Lily still nagged about etiquette, about not being overly friendly with staff. But Athanasia knew better. This was survival. The maids who once ignored her now slipped her treats, chatted with her, even laughed at her antics. She had learned early. Insults and pranks only made enemies. Kindness bought allies. And she needed every ally she could get, because things kept disappearing. Gold candelabras, jeweled trinkets, picture frames. The maids, lowly nobles, barons, and viscounts fallen on hard times, had arrived terrified of Claude. When years passed with no imperial attention, greed crept in. They stole quietly. Athanasia noticed everything. She smiled sweetly at them, played the cute princess, and counted every missing piece. They think Claude doesn't care. They think I'm powerless, but I'm watching. And when I'm big enough, this palace is going to fund my escape. Before Claude remembers I exist, before the novel catches up, she popped a chocolate into her mouth, sweetness blooming on her tongue. One piece at a time, one secret at a time, 1 year closer to freedom. Chapter 5, The Vanishing Palace and the Little Thief. Gold began to disappear like morning mist. At first, it was subtle. A candelabra gone 1 week, a jeweled frame the next, a silver tray the week after. The maids, lowly nobles fallen on hard times, barons and viscounts who had drawn the short straw of assignment here, grew bolder with every silent month that passed without imperial wrath. No new concubines arrived. No summons came from the emperor. Claude had not set foot in these halls since the massacre years ago. To them, the Ruby Palace had become a ghost ship adrift. Beautiful, abandoned, and ripe for salvage. They took wall sconces. They pried gemstones from mosaic borders. They even rolled up sections of embroidered silk curtains and tucked them into aprons when no one watched. Athanasia noticed before anyone else. She had always watched her room like a hawk. Every morning she cataloged the treasures. This vase here, that golden comb there, the ruby-inlaid music box that played a haunting lullaby. She had planned to take them herself one day, her escape fund, her ticket out before the novel's clock struck 18. But now her hoard shrank day by day. She wanted to scream, wanted to march to the throne room and shout, "Daddy, they're stealing from your precious daughter." But she knew exactly how that would end. Claude would tilt his head, golden eyes narrowing. "You were still alive?" And then, nothing. Just the swift arc of a blade, or worse, indifference so complete it erased her from existence. So she did the only thing a 5-year-old could do. She wailed. Whenever a maid slipped something shiny into her apron pocket, Athanasia opened her mouth and let out the loudest, most heartbroken cry she could muster. Tears streamed. Tiny fists pounded the carpet. The sound echoed down marble corridors like a warning siren. It worked. Sometimes, the maid would freeze, drop the item in panic, and scurry away. But most times, they simply waited for her to tire herself out, then continued. Until Lily noticed. One afternoon, Lily walked into the nursery, saw an empty spot where the sapphire-encrusted mirror had been the day before. and went very still. Her blue eyes darkened. She marched straight to the head maid. The head maid, cold, efficient, always claiming insufficient funds for even a new rattle, tried to deflect. But Lily was no ordinary servant. Second daughter of a powerful Count family. Volunteer for the Ruby Palace out of loyalty to Diana. The one person here who still carried real influence. By evening, 3 maids were gone, banished without ceremony. They were ordered to return what they stole. None of it came back. Athanasia watched from her crib, sucking on a finger, suspicion curling in her chest. The head maid knows. She's probably taking her cut. But what could a child do? Nothing but cry, and cry she did, loud enough to make the remaining staff flinch. There was, however, a silver lining. So much had vanished already that no one noticed when Athanasia began quietly claiming what remained. A small gold hairpin slipped under her pillow, a tiny emerald pendant tucked into her dress pocket, a delicate bracelet hidden inside a stuffed bear. Technically, she told herself, this is my palace. I'm just safekeeping my inheritance. But even that had limits. Lily had grown watchful. She patrolled the halls more often, frowning at empty niches, counting candelabras like a general assessing losses. The palace looked emptier by the day. Athanasia decided to pause her own collection. She couldn't risk Lily finding her secret stash, not when the woman already suspected theft. Princess, where are you going? Heh, I'm going to see Lily. Ho, before that, we better wipe your mouth. Was the chocolate good? A passing maid, Hannah, caught her mid-escape. Chocolate smeared across her lips and fingers like war paint. Athanasia froze. The handkerchief came out. Chocolate stains bloomed across white linen. It's a secret that Ati ate chocolate? Of course, princess. She waved goodbye to the giggling maids and fled, heart pounding. Chocolate on my hands, on my white dress, disaster. She hurried toward the courtyard fountain, the one with the scandalously posed marble statue that looked more coquette than angel. All the statues here were like that. Former concubine's taste, perhaps. Not exactly child-appropriate, but it gave her daily eye candy. She stretched on tiptoe, splashed water over sticky fingers, leaned too far, and nearly toppled in. She caught herself, breathless, and stared at her reflection. Golden curls framed a heart-shaped face, pinchable cheeks, long lashes, and those eyes, those impossible, jewel-like eyes that shifted from sapphire to amethyst to deepest indigo depending on the light. Pretty. It sounded vain, even in her own baby voice. But she was beautiful, unfairly, breathtakingly beautiful, the kind of child who could have been a model or actor in her old world. Diana's soft features blended with Claude's sharp intensity, especially in the eyes. Lily called them jewel eyes, the royal family's mark. The novel had waxed poetic about Jeanette's version of them. Athanasia stared longer than she meant to. Only Claude and I have these eyes, or so they say. But Jeanette existed somewhere, hidden in the Alpheus household, growing up loved and safe. Maybe this world is different. Maybe she doesn't exist. Maybe... Princess, watch out! Strong arms lifted her from behind. Athanasia squeaked. I said not to go around alone and you didn't listen to me. Lily's voice, half scolding, half fond. Athanasia beamed, throwing her arms around Lily's neck. I'm West, you Lily. Lily sighed, but her lips twitched upward. Princess, you ate chocolate today too, didn't you? Uh-oh. I heard from Hannah, no more sweets for 1 week. No, traitor Hannah. Athanasia tried the full pitiful pout. Big eyes, trembling lip, it didn't work. Lily carried her back, unmoved. Later in the garden, Athanasia picked flowers with exaggerated care. Hannah, now trailing her on shift, watched longingly. Princess, could I have a flower too? No, bad. Hannah made fake crying noises. Athanasia ignored her, gathering white blooms for a crown. A bribe for Lily. Lift the chocolate band, pretty please. But the white looked dull. Hannah, what color flower do you think would fit? Hannah perked up instantly. You're giving it to Miss Lillian, right? Blue or purple would be nice. Maybe yellow too. Hannah dashed off to search. Athanasia wandered deeper into the garden alone, humming a half-remembered children's song. Flowers live together in the flower field. We lived together in the kindergarten. She stepped past a hedge and froze. The Ruby Palace was gone. She stood in an unfamiliar courtyard, silent, pristine, utterly empty. Uh-oh. Chapter 6. The Secret Palace and the Hidden Hoard. Where is this place? Athanasia spun in a slow circle, flowers clutched to her chest like a shield. Heart hammering. The garden had seemed endless, but she hadn't walked that far. Had she? The palace walls loomed high, but the architecture was different. Older, grander, less lived in. No maids. No footsteps. No distant laughter or clatter of trays. Just silence. And cleanliness. Too clean. Not a speck of dust. Not a single leaf out of place. No one uses this place. Her eyes widened. If no one uses it, then it's mine. All this time she had worried about hiding her treasures in the Ruby Palace, where Lily watched, where maids stole, where the head maid might search any day. But here was perfect. She tiptoed through empty corridors, peeking into rooms that echoed with her small footsteps. Marble floors gleamed. Silk drapes hung untouched. Furniture waited like patient ghosts. No rats, no spiders, no sign of life at all. One of the old palaces, maybe from the previous emperor. Close enough to sneak to, far enough to stay hidden. Her luck felt almost too good. This would be her secret hideout. She had been thinking lately, really thinking, about her old life. 4 years ago, or 5, time blurred in baby years, she had swallowed sleeping pills in a freezing apartment, probably froze to death after the drugs took hold. She didn't miss it. Orphan. No family, endless work, cold winters, no future. Here, meals appeared, a bed softer than clouds, no labor, and thanks to whatever possession magic came with reincarnation, she had understood the language from day one. Not bad. Actually, pretty good. If she could just stay quiet, stay forgotten, leave before 18. Avoid Claude at all costs. She knew the plot. First meeting at 9, accidental garden encounter during a banquet. She would not wander toward lights and music. She would not chase fate. She would hide and hoard. Back in her room that evening, she practiced her letters on scrap paper, scribbles that looked innocent but were deliberate practice. Lee, she held up the page proudly. Lily gasped. The maids gasped louder. Our clever princess! From that day, lessons began. Manners, reading, writing, etiquette far earlier than normal. Most noble children started at 8. Athanasia played dumb when she could, spilled tea on purpose, mixed up grammar, pretended confusion. It didn't help. They called her a genius anyway. I'm sincerely happy that I can be by Princess Athanasia's side, Lily said once, eyes shining. Guilt pricked Athanasia's conscience. But the Ruby Palace was isolated. News didn't travel. No one outside would hear of the prodigy child. Good. Stay forgotten. That afternoon, after Lily left to speak with the head maid about palace-wide cleaning, Athanasia moved. She pulled 2 small pouches from under her bed, heavy with pilfered gold and jewels, gifts from Hannah's weakness for puppy eyes. She lifted her dress, tied the pouches to her thighs beneath pumpkin-shaped underclothes. The knots were clumsy. Chubby fingers struggled. Hurry. She'll be back soon. She pretended to nap when Lily returned. Princess, have sweet dreams. A kiss on the cheek. Footsteps faded. Athanasia waited, counting heartbeats, then slipped out. The garden path, the hedge, the empty palace. Legs shook under the weight. Breath came short, but she made it. Under a sturdy tree in the courtyard, she planned to bury them. Problem, no shovel. Ground hard as stone. Hands too soft. Dirt would give her away. She cursed under her breath. Baby curses, and hid the pouches deep in a thick bush instead. Tomorrow, I'll ask Hannah for a play shovel. The return trip was lighter. Faster. She passed a maid who barely glanced, used to seeing the princess wander. Back in bed, sweating, exhausted. Our princess, time to wake up. Okay. You're drenched in sweat. Do you have a slight fever? It's hot. The sun is so buihati. Lily fussed, checked curtains, promised cooler air. Athanasia asked for cold milk. Lily left. Athanasia collapsed onto silk pillows. Too close. She did it twice more, once every few days. Never daily. Too risky. But the bush horde grew. And with every trip, the abandoned palace felt more like hers, a secret kingdom, a safe place. A promise to herself, before the novel catches me, I'll be gone, with enough gold to never need anyone again, one hidden pouch at a time. Chapter 7, The Golden Statues and the Golden Gaze. Athanasia had grown accustomed to the secret path. The flower field no longer felt endless, the hedge no longer surprised her. She moved faster now, even with the heavy pouches tied beneath her dress like makeshift armor. Her thighs ached from the weight, her steps wobbled like she was dragging invisible tires, but she pressed on. She told herself this was necessary. Life in the Ruby Palace was soft. Warm meals appeared without effort. Lily's lullabies wrapped around her like blankets. The maid slipped her chocolate and called her clever. She could almost imagine staying forever, growing old in gilded neglect. But Claude existed, a bomb with no fuse, no timer, only whim. One day he might remember the dancer's daughter. One day he might decide immortality was a joke not worth keeping. One careless glance, one fleeting boredom, and everything ended. So these babies, gold coins, jeweled rings, tiny diamond drops were insurance. Escape money, freedom waiting in the dirt of a forgotten garden. This was her 5th trip. She slipped past the hedge, entered the silent palace, and this time did not head straight for the burial tree. Instead, she followed a glint she had glimpsed last time, something shining from a distant alcove. Angel statues, dozens of them, some small enough to cradle, others towering twice her height. Wings spread in graceful arcs, faces serene and sorrowful. All of them, every last one, crafted from pure gold. Athanasia's breath caught. The Ruby Palace had marble and gilt trim. This place had solid gold angels. No one would miss one, not really. She approached the nearest statue, child-sized, wings folded modestly, and circled it slowly. Her reflection warped across the polished surface. She reached out, traced a finger along the curve of a wing, then, curiosity overriding caution, leaned in and bit the rounded backside. Her baby teeth were stronger now. She pressed down, testing. Real. Definitely real. A thrill raced through her. When she was older, stronger, she could come back with tools. One statue alone would fund a lifetime away from imperial eyes. But then, a presence. Cold, heavy, behind her. When did insects like these start living in my castle? The voice sliced through the silence like a drawn blade. Athanasia froze, teeth still sunk into golden flesh. Her whole body went cold. She turned slowly. 2 figures stood at the far end of the hall. One was tall, armored, a knight with red hair and wide, startled eyes. The other? Gold hair catching stray light through high windows. A loose black robe over loungewear that somehow looked regal. And those eyes, jewel eyes, shifting from deep navy to cold sapphire, utterly without warmth. Claude de Algerobelia, the emperor, her father, the man who would one day order her execution. Crash. The pouches slipped from her loosened ties. Gold and gems spilled across marble in a glittering cascade. 3 years of careful theft glittered accusingly at her feet. The knight glanced down at the treasure with something like confusion. Claude did not look away from her face. That face. His voice was low, almost thoughtful. I feel like I've seen it before. Athanasia's knees buckled. She stepped back, bumped into the bitten statue, felt its cold wing press against her spine. Claude tilted his head. Yes, the dancer from Ciodona. You look like her. Diana. He remembered Diana, but not with fondness, with faint curiosity, like recalling the taste of a wine long finished. Well, it doesn't matter. He raised a hand. Athanasia stared at it, long fingers, pale, steady, coming closer. He's going to kill me, right here, right now. Your Majesty. The knight's calm voice broke the spell. Claude's hand paused midair. His gaze sharpened on her face again. Ghost of something? Amusement? Curved his lips. Now I remember. His eyes shifted color once more, deepening to midnight. The name that girl gave you? Athanasia's lungs forgot how to work. It was Athanasia. The word fell like a guillotine. Her heart slammed back to life. Too fast, too loud. You were a blood-covered thing that couldn't even protect its life. 5 years ago, not at 9 like the novel said, right after birth. Claude had come to the Ruby Palace that day intending to end her. But Lily, brave, foolish Lily, had stood in his path, and when he heard the name, Athanasia, something had amused him enough to let her live. Immortality. A name reserved for heirs, for those meant to rule forever. His father had borne it, his brother, the first queen. Claude, usurper, kinslayer, did not, and a common dancer had dared name her bastard the same. It's amusing. He had let her live to see if the name would prove true or false. You've grown a lot. The words were casual, almost gentle, but Athanasia heard the unspoken question beneath them. Have you grown enough to be worth keeping, or is it time to test the name's promise? Something slipped from her thigh. Clang, another pouch hitting marble. More jewels spilled. A tiny rabbit-embroidered bag Hannah had sewn landed upside down, contents winking in betrayal. Silence stretched. Claude's gaze flicked to the treasure, then back to her. Then he moved. Long strides closed the distance. Before she could breathe, he bent, hooked hands under her armpits, and lifted. She dangled like a kitten, face to face with the man who would one day kill her. "You're heavy." His tone was flat. "I thought your cheeks were on the verge of exploding, but I didn't know you would be this heavy." Athanasia's mind short-circuited. This crazy bastard, did he just comment on a 5-year-old's weight? "But what were you doing in my palace?" His palace? Of course, this empty, pristine place wasn't abandoned. It was his. The Emperor's personal residence, quiet because he willed it so. She had wandered straight into the lion's den. Claude glanced past her. The knight cleared his throat. "It seems like she thought it was a toy, sir." He nodded toward the angel statue, its golden butt bearing tiny teeth marks. Claude's expression did not change. "I guess you got lost because you were busy playing." He turned, still carrying her. "Felix?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Hold her." Athanasia was passed midair like a parcel. The knight, Felix, caught her carefully. His face was handsome, kind-eyed, but shock and pity warred in his gaze as he stared down at the Emperor's daughter. Claude walked ahead without another word. Athanasia clutched Felix's uniform, heart hammering. This is it. The plot just broke. And I broke it. Chapter 8, Tea with the Beast. A 5-year-old princess sat at a tea table opposite Death wearing a crown. The room was beautiful. High ceilings, silk walls the color of dusk, windows draped in velvet that muted the afternoon light. A low table held porcelain so fine it looked like frost. Cakes, pastries, warm milk in a silver cup. Athanasia's back was soaked with sweat. Claude sat across from her, perfectly at ease, legs crossed, one hand cradling a teacup as though this were ordinary. Felix stood behind her like a guard who had forgotten how to guard. She hiccuped when Claude lifted his cup. "I hadn't heard you were deaf." His voice was calm, almost bored. "It's not fun because you're too quiet." "Not fun, boring, else disposable." She forced a smile, small, trembling. "Ati can talk." Heh. The sound came out strangled. Claude's gaze never wavered. "Now you speak. Why did you not open your mouth until now?" She stared at her lap. Felix shifted uncomfortably. "Your Majesty, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I heard children of that age are shy." "Really?" Athanasia nodded frantically behind her forced smile. "Yes, shy, very shy. Please send me home." Claude leaned back, regarding her like a puzzle he had half solved. "Felix?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Leave." Felix hesitated, eyes full of apology, then bowed and slipped out. The door closed with soft finality. Athanasia's stomach dropped. Claude tilted his head. "Seems like Adi is a nickname." She had slipped, used the babyish version without thinking. "Athanasia, Athanasia." He repeated it slowly, tasting the syllables. "Do you know what your name means?" She did, too well. Immortality. A name heavier than any crown. A name that had amused him once, enough to spare her. A name that might amuse him again or irritate him into ending the joke. She made her face as innocent as possible. Wide eyes, helpless expression. "I'm harmless. I don't want your throne. I just want to disappear quietly." Claude watched her for a long moment. "What are you doing? Go ahead and eat." The table was laden with child-friendly treats. Cakes frosted in pastel, fruit tarts, warm chocolate. "I intentionally asked them to bring food that children like. If you don't eat, I have no choice but to punish those who brought these." A threat wrapped in silk. She picked up a fork with shaking fingers. "Thank you, I'll eat it well." The first bite tasted like ash. She forced it down. "Tastes good." Her voice was small. Claude watched her eat in silence. "Who taught you manners?" "Lily taught me." He paused. "You must be meaning Lillian York." Athanasia blinked. How did he... "I guess that fearless maid who tried to block me 5 years ago is still by your side." 5 years ago, the day he came to kill her. Lily had stood in the doorway, small, trembling, defiant, and refused to move. "She and your mother are probably the only people to block me and not have been killed by me." Athanasia's blood turned to ice. He spoke calmly, conversationally, but every word carried frost. He watched her eat another bite of cake. "Do you know who I am?" The fork slipped from her fingers, clattered against porcelain. If she hadn't been seated, she might have fallen. Her mouth went dry. This was no idle question. This was judgment. He had not brought her here out of paternal curiosity. He had brought her here to be entertained, to see if the amusing little thing from 5 years ago still amused him, or if it was time to discard her. His jewel eyes bored into hers, boredom flickering beneath the surface like a predator deciding whether prey was worth the chase. Athanasia swallowed. She knew the correct answer. She knew the wrong one would end her. But every instinct screamed to run. Instead, she met his gaze, small, terrified, but unflinching. And in the quiet room, with cakes growing cold and tea forgotten, the princess who was never meant to survive began the performance of her life. One careful word, one forced smile, one heartbeat away from the blade. Chapter 9. The word that should not have been spoken. Athanasia's mind raced in frantic circles. Say something. Anything. Wrong answer, ill dead. Right answer, ill maybe not dead today. But what is right to a man who finds amusement in names that mock immortality? Claude's finger tapped once against the arm of his throne, a slow, deliberate rhythm. The sound echoed louder than any heartbeat. She opened her mouth. Abba Mama? The word hung in the air like a dropped crystal. Fragile, ridiculous, explosive. She wanted to claw it back the instant it left her lips. Abba Mama, father, to the man who once came to kill me as a newborn, to the emperor who massacred his own harem and will one day swing the axe on my 18th birthday? What is wrong with me? She braced for the flash of steel, the cold command, the end. Instead, Claude's hand paused mid-tap. He tilted his head slightly. Gold hair caught the light like spilled coins. Silence stretched so thin it hurt. Then, slowly, he lifted one hand and stroked his own cheek, the gesture languid, almost indulgent. Go on, Athanasia blinked. I didn't die? Her brain scrambled for footing. She remembered the novel too clearly. Jeanette had approached Claude first. Bright, fearless, radiant. She had called him father with sunshine in her voice and melted ice no one else could touch. Athanasia had never dared, but Jeanette wasn't here yet, and Claude was watching her now, not with boredom, not with murder in his eyes, but with faint, predatory curiosity. If I act like her, just a little, maybe he finds it amusing enough to keep me breathing. She swallowed terror, forced the corners of her mouth upward into the widest, brightest smile she could manage. Papa? The air turned to knives. Claude's eyes narrowed fractionally. Athanasia's heart slammed against her ribs like a trapped bird. She doubled down, voice louder, smile wider, cheeks puffed in exaggerated cheer. Papa! The word rang out like a challenge. For one endless heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Claude exhaled, a sound so soft it might have been amusement or might have been the last breath before execution. He leaned back, the tension snapped like brittle thread. Athanasia survived. She survived the rest of the cakes under his unblinking gaze. She survived being carried back to the Ruby Palace in Felix's arms while the entire staff stared in stunned horror. Lily nearly fainted at the sight of the Emperor's knight holding her princess. She snatched Athanasia away as though Felix carried plague, clutching her so tightly the child could barely breathe. The Emperor said he will come ask for Princess Athanasia soon. The words dropped like stones into still water. Every face in the room paled, then flushed with something between terror and bewildered hope. Athanasia stared blankly. Soon, he's coming back? She barely registered the chaos that erupted around her. Maids whispering, rushing to prepare. Lily trembling as she held her close. Her stomach rebelled. Keck? She retched onto the carpet, emotional exhaustion finally winning. Princess? That night, she lay in bed, wide awake, scribbling furiously on a hidden scrap of paper in Korean, her only safe language. Plan A, stay forgotten in Ruby Palace forever. Failed, she scratched it out violently. The moment she had stumbled into Claude's private palace, the illusion of safety shattered. Plan B, hoard gold, escape before 18. Still possible? Maybe. The timeline had already shifted, first meeting at 5 instead of 9. But Claude had let her live twice now. Perhaps he would keep her alive long enough to gather more babies. Plan C, act cute, win in his amusement, don't die. She stared at the words until they blurred. Calling him Papa had worked. It had been mortifying, soul-crushing, but it had worked. She kicked the blanket high, face burning beneath her pillow. I said, Papa, to Claude d'Alger Obelia. I'm going to throw up again. But the embarrassment was just investment. Investment in staying alive. She crumpled the paper and hid it deep under her mattress. Plan B and Plan C together. Hoard, charm, survive. Lily came in softly. Princess, it's time to sleep. Lily comes in, or me? Lily's voice trembled as she began the lullaby. Athanasia closed her eyes and swallowed blood-tasting tears. 10 days passed like a held breath. Then he came again. Lily and York, it's been a while. Claude stood in the grand receiving room like he owned the air itself. Blessings and glory upon the son of Obelia. Lily's voice shook only slightly as she curtsied. Athanasia clung to her skirt, heart thundering. Claude's gaze slid to her, cool, unreadable. I was busy with the duties of being an emperor that I haven't been able to concern myself with the one and only princess. But Athanasia has grown up well, thanks to you. It is an honor. Don't lie, you forgot I existed. You still might. Now I myself will take care of the princess, so don't worry. Thunder rolled inside Athanasia's skull. Lily's hand tightened on hers. Claude smiled down at her. It was not a father's smile. It was the smile of a man who had just found a new toy. Chapter 10, The Lake and the Almost Death. 5 days after his second visit, Claude summoned her again. You've gained weight since the last time I saw you. Athanasia stared up at him from the cushion where she sat. 5 days. No child gains noticeable weight in 5 days. But Claude said it anyway. Casual, testing. She forced brightness into her voice. Hey, Papa is pretty too. Lily stiffened beside her. Claude's eyes narrowed, then curved faintly, the barest hint of a smile. She had learned his rules quickly in these last meetings. Fear bored him, defiance amused him. Flattery, especially ridiculous, childlike flattery, kept the blade sheathed. Come, follow me. He turned without waiting. I was just about to go boating, so get ready. Lily tried. Your Majesty, I apologize, but the princess and water... She'll be with me, so what's the problem? Lily's courage faltered. She looked at Athanasia with anguished eyes, silent apology. Athanasia forced a smile. No. Ati wants to go with Papa. Lily's face drained of color. Claude walked on. Athanasia followed, feeling like a sacrifice being led to the altar. The boat was beautiful, sleek wood polished to a mirror shine, gliding across the imperial lake without visible oars or motor. Magic, perhaps? Or hidden rowers beneath the water. She sat opposite Claude, exhausted before anything even happened. He watched her with lazy interest. What are you thinking about? She scrambled for something safe. Papa's hair is twinkle twinkle, pretty? It was true. His dirty blonde strands caught sunlight like molten metal. I like twinkle twinkle, heh. Claude's lips curved again, small, dangerous. You had that jewel pouch with you that day. Her stomach plummeted. I'm taking good care of your treasure, so come take it yourself next time. He has my hoard. He's holding my escape hostage. Silence fell. Claude looked away, toward the far shore, boredom creeping back. Athanasia studied him while she could, the loose robe draped over broad shoulders, collarbones visible above the open neckline, a body built for war and rule, handsome, terrifyingly so. She could understand, distantly, why Diana had fallen, why women throughout history had thrown themselves at him like moths. But those jewel eyes held no warmth, only cold beauty, like lake water reflecting sky without ever feeling it. A strange flower caught her eye near the bank, almost transparent, petals shimmering blue from the water's reflection. A blue lotus? No, clear as glass. She wanted it. She leaned, further, splash. The boat rocked. Water swallowed her, layers of lace turned to lead. She flailed, coughed, choked. Coo! No ground beneath her feet. The lake was deep here. She couldn't swim. Save! Claude watched from the boat, expressionless, pitiless. She saw it clearly in that moment. He would let her drown, not out of malice, out of indifference. The realization stole her strength. Something wrapped around her ankle, cold, invisible, and pulled. Water flooded her lungs. This is how it ends, not at 18, now. Then, a hand seized the back of her dress, yanked her upward. She broke the surface coughing violently, world spinning. Claude hauled her onto the boat like a drowned kitten. He dropped her at the lakeside. Felix. Yes, Your Majesty. Teach Athanasia how to swim starting tomorrow. He shook water from his hand. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if my only daughter died from drowning? Lily came running, towel in arms, voice breaking. My goodness, princess! She wrapped Athanasia tight. Claude turned away. Felix followed, face tight with something like anger. Lily rocked her. Princess? It's okay. It's okay now. Athanasia shivered, half from cold, half from the truth that had just sunk into her bones. Claude had saved her, not from kindness, from inconvenience, embarrassing. His only daughter. The words echoed like a sentence. She was no longer forgotten. She was his. And in Claude d'Alger Obelia's world, being his was the most dangerous thing of all. One cough, one breath. One more day bought with borrowed time. The story of Athanasia d'Alger Obelia had only just begun to rewrite itself. One terrified smile, one hidden plan, one desperate papa at a time.